Hello and welcome to another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. I am your host, Jose on the mic, and with me as always is the lovely, amazing dancer May. How are you doing, love?
I am doing great.
I see lots of red on the screen right now.
It looks great in the EverDance Studio.
Well, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about her phone right there. There's a lot of red on the screen right now. Everybody pay attention.
Right, so before we talk about that, I'd like to introduce the owners of EverDance Studio. We're here in their studio, Dianne Homann and Loui Moreno.
The big Loui Moreno.
Yes,
how are you
our
doing?
friends.
Kids, how are you doing?
Good.
I don't know if you can see in the background. It's looking rather ominous, and that's why we have the phone over here and we're checking out the radar.
Tornado warning.
Tornado warning, yeah.
So on Dance Teachers Academy podcast, we always like to talk about certain challenges and how did you overcome them. We did not know we were going to have the challenge of tornado warnings.
Yeah, weather is against us at the moment.
We're just headed for safety. No big deal. So we got
hiding
the phone
in the corn crib.
Watching it on the
right? I got it. Not here yet.
Yeah, not here yet.
Almost.
So other than the weather...
Isn't that what people always talk about?
How's the weather? Have you weathered this year?
Actually, not this year, but a couple of years ago, before we opened the studio, Dianne and I used to rent floor space out of a ballet studio in North Arlington. And similar to this, it was springtime, and it was really bad weather coming in. We don't remember weather coming in. And before you know it, the sirens are blowing, and everything's freaking out. And then I go into my car to get my phone charger because it was dying. I need to make sure that my wife and my dad was going to pick up my son from daycare. And then it's similar to the outside here. We have a little, hallway, kind of thing outside the main door, and with pillars made out of brick. And as I am coming out of the car, I turn around and look because there's construction on Lamar, and then before you know it, you see the construction stuff being just taken up into the air, just like a gust of wind came by, just picking it up. So I'm like, oh shoot, I'm running back to get to the studio, and as I'm getting into the little hallway thing, I step in, and then the wind blew me off. And I lost my footing, and then I smashed my hand into the brick, and I gashed around the side of my wrist. And I'm going into the studio with Dianne. She's like, "What's happening?" Like, I think I'm bleeding, and I'm just like nonstop bleeding. So we go into the bathroom, look ourselves in. I got paper towels. I take my shoelaces off my shoe, and I make myself a little tourniquet to stop bleeding.
Well, keep in mind, the electricity went off because the wall of debris hit the studio and the building, and we heard it, and electricity went off. And so I'm sitting here with the phone, like, "Are you bleeding?" And he was just gushing blood. So we're like in the dark, in the bathroom, trying to get him, and we ended up driving through Arlington.
North Arlington is bad about that,
and
though.
he had to get stitches and everything. So
I mean, like, I had a friend that worked.
We can handle
Arlington, Texas.
We have a first aid kit in the
So
office.
I almost got blew up by the darn wind. So I had a friend that worked at an urgent care in South Arlington, and I didn't trust anybody, so I was like, I'm gonna go see her. So I drove all the way across town, which was a bad idea because there were power lines out. There was a post on the ground. There was a couple of burn buildings because the tornado did hit nearby. And
you're just an adventure seeker.
I am.
Yeah. We go dance with this tornado and then drive 10 miles to go get it.
It was so far so good. So Dianne, you were telling me earlier, this is a great combination of ownership, kind of maybe unusual. So tell us about that. What's unusual about it, but why does it work?
Well, I'll tell you first how we met.
That's always a good start.
Yeah, a good start there, yeah. So it was about 5 years ago, maybe closer to 6. We had a mutual friend who said, called me up, "Hey, I know this guy who's looking for a partner." She called him, "Hey, I know this girl who's looking for a partner." I was teaching in Mansfield on my own, just had a little group of students, and he was teaching his own group of students. And we ended up meeting up one night, and I brought a friend with me because, meeting the big scary man, didn't want to go alone.
She brought her friend and her kids.
And, I'm responsible.
Wow.
And I met him.
As
and
a lady, you have to do things
exactly.
like that.
Yes. Sure. But immediately you can tell that he's just, a big teddy bear. And so that's how we met, and we started talking. And honestly, it was kind of like mutual respect and immediately because I already had an established business. He had an established business. We were like, let's put our businesses together. And then we did that for about 6 months. And then we went, hey, I think we could make this into a big studio. So that's what we did. But yeah, we are kind of very different, but alike at the same time.
So how long has this partnership been going on?
almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years.
Yeah, it'll be
6 years?
6 years this summer.
Huh?
Oh, that's a good. That's you know, in when we talk about dancing, it's like dog years. You have to like multiply by 7.
Yeah, it does feel like forever.
Yeah.
Like
The suffering.
It's been 42
Yes.
years. It's been 42 years.
yeah, there we go.
In dance
Dan-
Yeah.
Dance years. Yes.
So that's a long time.
Yeah, by proof
Yeah.
from these eye bags and everything else is going
Cold cream. Got to look into
we,
it.
You know, we do joke that we're work married with children, so our staff is our children. So we're almost to the 7-year itch. So
Yeah.
maybe next year we might fight a
Well,
little bit.
in dog years, we did the first year and a half. Like, that's basically, the 70 years was the first year and a half. That
Oh,
was
really?
The dog, yeah, in dog years.
They're just
Yeah.
kind of figuring out how. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Checking out the limits.
We came into this with very similar goals in mind, but the approach on how to get to that goals were different. And that was I guess the toughest part of our relationship was trying to figure out how to go about what we wanted to get in a way that it didn't offend anybody and they were both okay with. So finding that like nice little,
Well, catching the rhythm, as it were.
yeah,
Yeah.
the middle ground,
Yeah.
you know, because I mean I'm not like most guys as far as, for example, decorations.
No, you're quite tall, so yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But so
that's a
there's
good
several
example.
things, for example, like, you know, most men could care less about the color of the paint on the wall, the color of the floor, but like, even on my own wedding, like, just like, you know, I love my wife, but
Were you the bridezilla, really?
I am, you know, like her aunt, super sweet, trying to help out a lot, but her just want to do things. I was like, no, that does not go with this. It's like, I'm
just like, what?
I grew up in a beauty salon. My mother had a beauty salon. So,
Oh, okay. Well,
by
there
the
we
age
go.
of 13, as a man, I rate too many Vanity Fairs and Cosmopolitans and made sure his lifetime. I mean, I had nothing else to do. They were just there. So, no, you know, like
Wow.
I'm a lot into
We learn something every
fashion,
time.
Right.
makeup,
Yeah.
clothing, you know, stuff like that. Like I'm very artistic. I mean, I like to draw. I'm awful at painting, but I used to draw a lot, and you know, there are a lot of things.
Hey, you did pretty good on his room.
That I like, that are things that I visually see that I was like, oh, this will work, this wouldn't work, and
Yeah, like the first year we fought over the Christmas tree. Like what ornaments to put on there? And
most
I just
guys are like,
assumed,
whatever.
As a woman, I would be taking care of that. Not Louis. He was all into it. Now I just let him do it.
I mean, so when I was working at Fred Astaire, Lisa Solomon was my boss there, and
Good lady.
she's
Good
Met
lady.
her.
She's
Yes.
amazing.
Had her on the podcast.
Love her to
Oh,
death.
yeah.
There was one year, because every year, and we actually adopted the same thing, where during Christmas time, we have a Toys for Tots
Nice.
event where we, you know, sell lessons for cash or checks, and part of the money goes to the teacher for Christmas, and the other part we go
nice.
and we buy toys, and the student matches the amount of money, we go buy toys. And I got that from Lisa, we were working there. Well, one year she was trying to make all the presents underneath the tree look nice, and she was gonna have another time, and she turned around and she looked at me and she said, "Louis, since you like to do all the priestly stuff, can you just go ahead and fix it?" And then, so I was like, that was the first time anybody called me priestly about, you know, just rearranging things. Or
You didn't like how I folded, how I wrapped them, and I'm like, never mind, just do it.
Yeah. So there are certain things that we discovered that we were very passionate about,
Yes.
and then things.
And apparently the tree's one of them.
We had to compromise
That
on
is
stuff
so
you probably
funny.
would not expect that we'd have to compromise on. And now we're used to it. So now it's like, yeah,
So
go
now-
ahead and just
yeah,
pick
yeah,
the
I
paint
can tell
color.
that.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
Now we know what, you know, each one of us, you know, cares about, or
Yeah.
but even if it's something that is not 100% a big deal, we still call each other and text
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, just to keep each other in the loop and communicate.
We have a spending limit. You must call the other partner before you spend
That's
over
nice.
a certain amount.
Yes.
It's like a
Oh, yeah.
It's just we share money, so we have to agree.
Yeah, and I mean, my bolsa.
Yeah, it's like a marriage. It's like a work marriage. Yeah.
And then I want to talk about, because you said you started off as a student and how you transitioned to instructor, because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Along with the
It's coming
interesting
through.
thunder in the background.
Yeah, let's see what
Wow.
the weather says. Okay, we're not quite. Almost. It's about
Okay.
10 miles away.
I think we're okay.
Oh, we're okay for now. Well, yes, I took lessons at a studio in Fort Worth.
Can we
It's
drop
actually-
names?
Sure, it was Arthur Murray.
Okay.
Literally, I had just had a baby, and this is a typical story. People have a big life change. And you're like, I want to do something, so I started taking lessons. And literally, like the first day I walked in the door, I went, oh, this is where I want to be. And I plucked my credit card down and just bought shoes and lessons and everything. And after about a year, it wasn't enough just taking lessons. And I, wanted to teach. And, I was apparently too old, showed them. And at the time, I wasn't willing to be like a full-time teacher and all that stuff. So I ended up leaving and finding people to teach me and coach me, and I worked with another instructor for a while, and then I ended up just setting up shop in Mansfield, and I just took coachings from Israel and Lisa Pena were big coaches of mine for a while, and Vince Duhan, and then David and Karen Miller. They are country and West Coast aficionados. They used to work in Fort Worth, and now they're in Austin. So basically, I just took all the money I made teaching and went and paid other people to help continue to train me.
To grow you.
Yeah, and then, so I had been doing that for about 4 years when I met Loui. So at that point, I was used to kind of running this little side business, and it kind of just transitioned. And then, so going from a student to a teacher, I feel like now I've got it under control, but for a while it was a little difficult because I had a different mindset than a teacher. And so stuff that I cared about, Louie's like, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Or yes, that's a good point. So I think it was good on both sides. Probably
definitely to empathize with the students.
And I tell people that all the time, because I think the hardest challenge for some people usually is they feel like they're not good enough. Like, oh, I can't compete unless this, or, I messed up a lot on this, and are you going to be disappointed in me if I didn't do this particular thing well? And it's kind of like, I don't know, I've been through all of that before. I've been in where I've competed as a student, went as a showcase, and then I've kind of moved to the other side of it. So I feel like that's really helpful, because I will pull up video, I have no problem doing it, and say, this is what I looked like the first time I performed.
And I'm sure that helps them to, bring them some confidence, because you're being transparent about what you went through.
I think it's kind of funny, like look how I used to do tango. And then they're like, oh my God. So
I know a group of professionals that got together and showed their very first competition video.
Oh, I have.
Yeah. We got to do that. They had like a party and showed it. I mean, talk about laughing, because
probably
I had more attitude than knowledge for sure on my first competition video. I was like, went out there like,
oh yeah,
so fantastic.
I was like so amazing, and it was horrible.
And then I found out what I didn't know later. I was like, well.
My first competition ever was with a student. Her name is Jonah Jarrett, and she's taking lessons with me again after like a 5-6 year break, 7-year break. But I was a brand new teacher.
Johnny.
Yeah, hi, Johnny. I wasn't even teaching a year when we went to Dallas. The competition in Dallas, I think it's called Dallas Competition all the time. It's no longer around. But I was so worried about her doing so well that this was me. I was like, brand new teacher first year, and all I did was this. Looking at her feet, you're doing great. And just you see me, there's video somewhere or a picture of me going 1, 2, 3, cha cha. Fantastic, keep going. 2, 3, cha cha cha.
You were looking at the floor during the competition?
I was looking at her feet.
Her feet?
Make sure she was doing things right, and I was just not there. I mean, it was awful.
And when Louis looks down, you notice.
Dude, that's
obvious.
I am 6'5" when I'm standing straight and I'm dancing. When I'm talking to people, I'm 6'3".
So when you're going 1, 2, cha-cha-cha, people notice.
Oh, I mean,
so when you're checking out the shoes, you're 5'10".
Yeah, just like I was just hunched over, and then my first professional competition too. After months of practicing and working hard, I thought I was going to be so regal and grand, and then I see the video of me doing the first like open foxtrot, and I'm like still hunched over, and I was like, but it didn't feel like that. It was just I still have a DVD of that one. It was.
We have to compare first competition. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. Well,
that sounds like a party right there.
Yes.
You got to get some alcohol involved first.
Beverages, some snacks.
Yeah, you drink every time someone looks at their feet. Or you drink every time someone slouches or loses their frame.
Wow.
We can't do
that. We can't do
that.
I love a good drinking game.
I was supposed to drink without watching it. It'll be less painful.
It will be less painful.
Well, I know there's a lot of challenges to having your own studio, and it seems like you've definitely worked through a lot. And I see your students at competitions; they're very happy, they're successful, they're doing well. I mean, the highest amount of success is when your students are happy anyway. All those trophies and first place top student things, those are just like extra, right?
They're the cherry on top.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I try to tell my students from the beginning is, especially if they win something, the first competition ever, is don't get used to it. Because you never know when you're going to go somewhere and there can be somebody who's going to be better than you. to maybe somebody who just trained that much harder, or that somebody who just happened to be on their best A game that day.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that you're doing bad, but you're not always going to be the best.
Hey, sometimes a dragon wins.
My best, and whether it's getting for a showcase or for a competition, for me as a teacher, the best result is the last week of practice. Because if we're here at the studio and they can do it, then I don't want to say I could care less, but I'm not as pressed of doing well at the comp. Of course I want them to do well and I want to win. I'm still competitive. Like I want to come back with something to hold on to. Yeah. But the truly what makes me happy is when we're in the studio and somebody does, they finally bring the feet together, or the posture stays straight the whole dance. It's like, oh my God, thank you. Yes, I feel someone, like that joy when I, just like, punch the air, or throw my hands up, or I clap when I yell to the guard, yes, thank you, Lord. Like those are the best moments.
They're all put together here that just before the comp.
Yeah, like the week off, the second to last practice. On a personal thing, I hate having the perfect last practice, especially when it comes to like a showcase. If our last run is perfect, we're gonna do it again until we screw up. Just the odds of doing it that perfect the day of the showcase, never. But leading up to it, the week off, if everything goes well in the studio and you can do it and you've done it several times, then you're ready. One of my biggest pet peeves, whether in any sport, whether it's dancing or traditional sports, is that people try to coach or teach the day off. You see the coach try to tell the kids, soccer game, like, hey, go this and go that, run, like, dude, you had the whole week to coach them. You had months to get ready for this tournament or whatever. And if, teachers that see on the sides trying to teach students, bring your feet together and do things like...
And just stressing them out.
Yeah. Like, if they haven't gotten by the day of the competition, they're not going to get the day off. You can try to remind them, hey, don't forget this, but if you're trying to actively teach or press on something,
they're not ready.
It's not gonna help. I mean, if you do it in between every heat, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, so that's why the week leading up to any event is the best part. When you can see their success on the floor here, working so hard in the studio.
And they feel it.
And whether they're competition students or social dance students, I get excited, whenever I have one of my competition students getting something for their routine or technical, as I do when my wedding couple is taking 4 or 5 lessons to get ready for their wedding in a couple of weeks. Like whenever they land their last dip or they look at each other, like anything, it's very rewarding. I always say, I will never be a regular school teacher where I can feel, because people take pride in being a teacher. But I feel like as dance teachers, we get a chance to feel the same, just with adults.
Yeah. Change lives.
Yeah. Change lives. You get to see people grow. You might get to see them physically grow, like a regular school teacher will see, a kid turn into a teenager or an adult. But you still get to see people's changes in their lives, and all the benefits they get from dancing. So it's very, very rewarding.
How did you start dancing?
They got tired of reading those Vogue magazines.
That's a tricky question because I'm from Peru, and I hit puberty really early. I was 9 years old, and I liked the 12-year-old girls. So I
know that one.
So like whenever I used to go, to parties, and there'd be music, and I wanted to dance with the pretty girls. Well, they wouldn't dance with me unless I knew how to dance. In South America for a while.
Always an inspiration for a man.
Most of the time, it's usually
I wanted to meet girls. Boy, how many times have I heard that?
Well, I met them, they just wouldn't talk to me.
Well, then you didn't meet them.
So dancing provides a little bit of time with the prettiest girl.
I used to watch, there was a salsa group called Salserin, which basically translates to like Little Salsa Kids, and it was an orchestra with like 5 singers, and whenever they turned 18, they graduated and then brought a new set of kids in. And they had, dance, they will have their music videos on, the Peruvian version of MTV. And I used to watch the music videos, and I used to, the TV was in the rack, and I would, copy their moves so I can go to the party and dance with the girls and, try to do things. So that's how I started dancing as a kid. Salsa, merengue, stuff like that. That's what I did. But I was out of high school. I was about 18, 19 years old, and my best friend, he was
still
taken...
in Peru?
Here now. I came when I was about to turn 16, about a month before.
Yeah, because I do want to, before you talk, because if we can just interrupt for a second, because I do want to talk about how you came to this country, because there's a lot of our dance friends that have come from other countries, and I think it's really important to talk about that challenge of coming from another country.
Yeah,
because I think... If people are, I have my family from Mexico came over here, my father's side, and had a lot of challenges in the country, came over here for a better life. And so I think it's hard for people to understand if they're just from their family.
So it was difficult. We grew up in a ghetto, a third world country. We grew up very poor. While my mom was pregnant with me in the late 80s, the government was so bad and so corrupt. There was terrorism everywhere. They would put car bombs near power plants or lighting towers. My parents had to do like a block and a half line just to be able to get a pound of rice and a can of condensed milk. Just so that was the government helping out as far as feeding the country, because everything was broke. There were tanks thrown into the city. There was martial law. It was really, really bad. So we grew up with nothing. There were days my parents wouldn't even eat so that my sister and I could eat. My parents sacrificed a lot, and then both my parents worked their tails off, and eventually we went from a tiny little apartment house, if you can call it a home, that it was the size of our office, where we fed my sister, my dad, all four of us. My youngest sister, my dad, my mom, and dad will sleep on bunk beds. My parents were at the bottom, my sister and I were at the top. I mean, we grew up with very, very, very little things. To a point where my parents worked their butts off. My mother, at one point, eventually was able to get a beauty salon in a house that used to be like an old hostel type thing. So it was like a house with a bunch of rooms on the top. The whole first floor she renovated to make her salon. Big space. On the back there was enough space, and the big patio to have sit tables, and she used to rent that out for a restaurant. We lived on the second floor. I mean, from having nothing to having quite a bit.
And they worked really
hard. They worked their butts
hard.
off.
Yeah.
I mean, I was.
You're a hard worker too. I see where you get it.
Since I was 9 years old, I used to just take
That's
care
quite
of
an achievement.
my sister.
I say that's quite an achievement, man, to make that jump like that.
My parents, and then economy crashed. My uncle had run for congressman in Peru. There was a big scandal with his political party. It was a lot of. I got stopped by a couple of black SUVs telling me, "Hey, are you so and so's cousin?" A nephew, and I was like, "Who are you?" You tell your uncle and your family to watch out. Things got nasty, really bad. There was a lot of corruption. There was a lot of violence. And when things started to tank and we started losing things, my dad left, and he came to Florida. We went to Florida, where most of my mom's family lives, trying to find a job. Searching for the American dream. My dad left for a year before my mother, sister, and I came and followed. While he was in the airport in Miami, my dad ran into his best friend's brother from his childhood. He said, "Hey, how's it going? My brother's actually in Texas. You should give him a call." So his friend Percy, my uncle, was we're Latino. Everybody's Tio and Tias, So
yeah, right.
So Percy,
yeah,
so he's kind of like my uncle. And Percy, he told me that, "Hey, come over here to Texas. I'll give you a job. I'll help you out."
It's amazing.
So my dad ended up actually moving to Texas instead of staying in Miami. And about a year later, my mother, sister, and we ended up getting rid of the big house. We went to a small place, just a couple of rooms to share. And my parents sacrificed everything. Even to this day, my mom still holds on to her furniture from her salon, still in the storage building 16 years later, because she always had the dream of being able to rebuild it.
Wow.
But coming to this country, all her certificates, all her diplomas, all her licensing,
None of that's valid.
None was valid. So her dream was to just rebuild that here, and she wasn't able to make it. So, parents gave up everything so that my sister and I can have a better future. Growing up in the streets, things were very rough. I've seen people killed, people stabbed. I've been assaulted several times. I've been attempted mugging and never caught me. For a big guy, I'm pretty slow most of the time until you see me running when I'm scared. But I grew up with a lot of violence near me, a lot of drugs, a lot of really, alcoholism, a lot of bad stuff. And my parents sacrificed a lot to bring us here, so we can move and have a better future for my sister and I. So my sister now, works. She actually worked here for a little while, for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. But right now she works at a law firm. She's admin at a law firm. We were able to build a studio. From scratch. So,
and even though you've had so much that you encountered, like you said, saw people getting killed, stabbed,
kidnapped, taken in cars. I mean,
that
whatever
is
the horror
so...
stories you hear, I've seen that live.
Yeah, and yet you are such a calm, peaceful, mellow person.
I discovered, because growing up, I had a lot of anger issues. I really did. I had a lot of, growing up the way I did, with all the violence and stuff around me, you always had to be hard. People talking about, you're going to be hard. You're a man, you're going to be tough. And I was not the nicest person to be around. I had a very specific mindset. I just have a lot of issues. And then when I came to this country, I spent a month in Miami with my mom and sister, and my dad came to pick me up. My dad showed up in Miami January 3rd, 2004, sorry. And then 2005, we were back in Texas, and the next day at 6, I was in school. And it was my dad and I for like a year. I had no friends. I barely spoke. I understood English, but I wasn't fluent, so it was hard for me to talk to people like friends.
There's a lot going on.
Within a year and a half, I moved countries. I no longer had my best friends from Peru, my family from Peru.
Oh, completely uprooted.
Everything changed for me, and then I was alone. It was my dad and I, and my dad was working all the time, and I would go to school and then come back home and stay home. There was no cable. I watched a lot of Friends reruns. I know every Friends lines through there. I used to watch NBA finals whenever they were on, and then I would try to understand Jay Leno. That was very hard at the beginning.
The sarcasm.
A lot of Jerry Springer. Because I had just basic TV. We were living in one of the guys that he worked for. He had a made-up room in his backyard, and that's where we stayed for the longest time. And it was hard, but I was very lonely, and I discovered that being so mad and angry at the time just made me even more lonely. I had to let go a lot of my, just kind of troubleshoot who I wanted to be in life. At the age of 16, everything changed around me, and I had to just grow up a bit more. I've been taking care of my sister since I was 9 years old. My sister's 6 years younger. When she was 3 and I was 9, my parents would just leave me in the house with her, and I used to take care of her, take her to school, walk her back and forth to school for pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. My sister and I are pretty tight. We grew up together. I was like her third parent, because both my parents worked all the time. So coming here was very, very difficult. I was away from my sister for like a year and a half before my parents were able to.
Yeah.
Because my mom didn't want to leave Miami. That's where her family was. It was already a big change for her. And then having to go to a city where she doesn't know anybody.
Right.
She was without your dad for what, a year?
Over a year.
Yeah, which was hard on everyone, I'm sure.
It was.
It's just like, is dad okay? When am I going to see him?
It was tough. They had a lot of marital problems. There were days that my mom was so lonely and sad that she would call my dad. It sounds awful, but she was just. Now as an adult, I understand. At the time, I thought it was just messed up that she would come your kids miss you, and she used us to come back home because she wanted to go back home. But my dad was like, there's nothing for us there. I'm working, I'm trying to save money so that you guys can come here.
Your dad did the hard, right thing.
It was now, right? I'm trying to think emotional, but now this is a grown man with kids. I get the sacrifice that he made.
Sure.
At the time it was difficult. I was a kid, I wanted my dad next to me. My mom missed him, my sister missed him. It was very difficult. But now, as a grown man with a family, I get the sacrifices.
You would do anything for your kids. You would do anything. You have 2 kids too.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
too.
11 and 16.
11 and 16.
Yeah.
16, girl.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Which is
Been there,
fabulous.
done that.
I've been there, done that. Okay.
Yeah.
But
My baby's 28 now.
28. Your baby is 28.
My mom still introduces me to people oh, this is my little boy.
So were you here in Texas at 16 when you started dancing then?
Yes, I started dancing when I was about 18.
Was your sister and mom here by then?
By the time I started dancing, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. When I was 17, my junior year in high school, 17 turning 18, my dad ended up driving to Florida, picking my sister up.
I know.
Yeah, that's the rain we're picking up.
The radar. We're okay though.
Go ahead.
It's just hitting us right now.
No, my dad just picked up my dad went to pick up my sister to bring her here for the summer. So my sister came for the summer, and then he had to drive her back, and so he left, and then instead of coming back alone, he came back with my mom and sister. So he just, you're coming, we're going, we're doing this, we're going to stay together. So he brought them both back to Texas. My mother every now and then still. I used to go to Miami just to visit my older, because I have 2 older siblings that they had left Peru when they were 15 each. They were both 11 and 12 years older than me, so they came and lived with my grandparents here in Miami. They were from a mom's
That's quite an age group.
Yeah, it was from a mom's first marriage. So my mom had them when she was 18 and 19. And then, But I mean, in my family, we're brothers. We're just brothers and sisters. There's
Yes.
no, like,
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Yeah,
We're a Latin family. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
we don't have I don't have a half brother.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Top half or bottom half, it doesn't matter. It's a whole guy.
So I started dancing when I was about 18. Just social dancing with my friends for his birthday. Well, he was taking the lessons with his girlfriend at the time. So I started going out with him, just a couple of social dances. I used to Tanglefoot in Fort Worth is a club, kind of like a USA Dance that has like a 1 month, one monthly dance on the weekends. Tanglefoot and Metro here in Tarrant County. So that was fun for a little while. I started doing some Lindy Hop, a little bit of West Coast swing, and then one day he saw an ad in the paper we were roommates at the time. We did together, we were hanging out, and one day he wakes up early at around noon. Because we're like 20 years old.
At around noon.
Yeah, it's like he was at noon. It's like, dude, what are you doing so early? And then it's like, why are you making so much noise so early? He goes, because he was getting all dressed up. I was like, where are you going? It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Why are you going so dressed up? So I have a job interview at a dance studio. So you want to come along? Just tag along. I was like, sure, why not? So I put on flip-flops, shorts, and a beater. And I'm just there for the ride.
Dress for success.
I mean, like, I wasn't applying.
Louis Moreno style.
Yeah, like,
Like, whatever.
Whatever.
So,
I hadn't heard this side of the story.
so we get there,
Wow.
and his name is Matt King. He still teaches. He has a girlfriend. Wife now for a while actually. That was the best man of the wedding.
I was going to say, you threw him under a fast moving bus.
No,
It's
it's
barely
been like
past
5
noon.
years
Like,
since they got married. It's a long time.
So they have a business to still teach. It's out of Fort Worth. So
Why don't we hear about this interview though with you and your flip-flops?
when I get to the interview, I'm just sitting down in the corner, because I'm on the side because I'm not interviewing. And it was owned by two guys, father and son, and they were like, "Hey, do you dance too?" And I was like, "Yeah, a little bit." To go with him social dancing. He goes, "Do you want to try out too?" And I was like this. So I got up and I tried out with him too, and they basically said, "Well, we're brand new. We can only really afford to hire one person." I said, "Look, I got a job. He's in between jobs. He needs some money. You can pay rent. So let's, you can have it." And they were like, "Well, we'll keep him, and then in a few months, whenever we get bigger, can we give you a call?" And I was like, "Sure, let's go for it." So they used to hire me just to come on Friday nights for the parties to help host the party, so I have somebody else to dance with. And then, my friend Matt would, come to the apartment after training for a few hours in a day, and he would teach me what he learned.
Nice.
So you got two 20-year-old dudes, in boxes and beaters, just like dancing cha-cha together. It was
Funny.
To be a fly on the wall.
Really short too.
Matt's 5'7.5".
Yeah. So can you imagine?
Is that in his dance shoes? Or?
No, that's just flat.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the half counts. He's always reminding me of that.
Yeah.
So it's because of
Yes,
him
it does.
that I got into that I got into
That'd be
dancing
funny.
and I got into teaching. I started at the studio. It was called Dance Image. I lasted there for about a year and a half before it shut down, unfortunately. I learned this is probably weird without going public with this, but anyways, I learned what not to do as far as running a business. There was a lot of mismanagement of money, a lot of not good practices in the industry that unfortunately give the people who work in this industry a bad name. So from there, I had a bad experience with the studio. So I'm just going to teach independently. I don't want to do anything. Matt had already left the studio, and I said, I'm done. I'm just going to teach on my own and try to contact them people, try to my own business cards. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And it was very, very hard teaching independently. And I did it for a couple of months, and then I get a call from Lisa Solomon at Fred Astaire, and she said, "Hi, this is Lisa Solomon. Matt King had given me your number," which he has a bad habit of giving my number away from two people.
Apparently, it worked out this time.
Yeah, so she said, and she was really good as far as
Lisa's
talking.
awesome.
Yeah, so she got, because I was like, I don't
She
want
gets
to.
a yes.
Yeah, she got a yes out of me. And I didn't want to go interview, but she got it out of me. And so I was like, okay, so I showed up the next day to the studio, and I walk
I
in.
hope you were dressed better this time.
I was dressed better. Yes, I had. At this time, I knew.
Brand new flip flops.
Yeah. Very clean beater, yes.
Yes, very clean beater.
So I get to the studio and teaching a group class. I think it was when I went tonight, because it was teaching a group class, was Dianne Corpitz.
Dianne.
So Dianne Corpitz, even though she had her own studio
Good
in Grapevine and in Dallas, she used to teach with Lisa for a while. So she was there like once or twice a week to teach some group classes, private lessons. So I showed up and I had already met her at the previous studio and at the dance competition because she was one of the judges. So she was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "What are you doing here?" So, you know, I was like, "I'm here to interview with Lisa." And she turned to Lisa and said, "Hey, this kid's good. You know, do whatever you
And
need
you
to
know,
do."
when Dianne says something that's like,
So, you know,
solid.
so I
Yeah.
sat down with Lisa, you
she's
know.
a great lady. Hi,
and-
Dianne.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Diane. It's
I met Dianne
Diane.
because she was my boss.
Dianne Corpus
Yeah,
has been around
she's
for a
a
while. She came
good
for saying
person.
that.
A year or two.
She's
Stellar
been a lot of
We don't
human
say we don't say big numbers on the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've known her for 6 months.
A year or two.
A couple years only. No, but she's trained a lot of people. She's been around for a while. She's
She-
very
yeah.
impactful in this community.
Yes.
So-
in the dance community, absolutely.
So yeah, I've been interviewed with Lisa, and I was there for about 3.5 years, I think, almost short of 4 years. And then Lisa sold the studio and the new owners, and I did not really see eye to eye. There was a lot of issues there, and we'll leave that one there. But unfortunately, things
it
didn't
was
work
time
out.
for like your own studio.
And then he met me.
Well, yeah, the sucky part is that I was forced out of the studio, and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody why I was leaving or why things happened.
I hate when they do that.
So, and they were very nasty as far as...
Thank you.
Nasty like that.
Yeah, nasty like that. Literally, I'm speaking of the devil. Look at that.
We're about to conjure
Good
him up
timing.
here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not the right way, and it was very painful because they were very threatening as far as like, if you talk to anybody, we'll call our lawyers and send us paperwork. And they were, I mean, I ended up, it was such a painful experience for me leaving Fred Astaire that I couldn't. And let me make sure that people understand, I actually liked the franchise. I liked the system. I liked the franchise as a whole was a good place to work for, to work at. Unfortunately, the owners at the time of the Fort Worth studio were not the greatest people to me. However, the franchise as a whole has been very, very helpful.
Right, because for example, Dianne Corpitz is Fred Astaire trained. I was
Yes.
Fred Astaire trained. So many of the great dancers and our colleagues.
I mean, Kim from
So it's not the
Fred Astaire
concept;
was-
it's the idiot, holding the keys to the.
Basically, it's the people, the individual studios. The franchise as a whole was great. I got my certifications to them.
Yes.
I competed professional in their circuit. I know the training, amazing coaches that came through almost every
Amazing
month.
coaches, yes.
So it was a very. I like to call that my dance college because I did not get a chance to
Yeah, it
finish
was
school.
a dance college.
So
for sure. Yeah.
my dad got fired. My mom got sick. We couldn't, nobody could work, so I started working full time. So I didn't get the chance to finish school. So whenever I was in France, to me that was my dance education. So it was very, very helpful to me. But I couldn't talk to anybody when I left. So I not only deleted people with Facebook, but I had to block people. I blocked my own manager. I blocked Lisa. I blocked Michael Raish. I blocked everybody that had anything to do with the studio because I didn't want to. It was so painful that I couldn't talk to anybody. It was very, very difficult for me to even listen to music. Because at the time, my dance partner at the time, she had said, we had made a promise, like, hey, if whenever the decision was happening, if you leave, or I leave, or if you get fired, we leave together. We're going to go together, and we're going to leave, and we're going to start our own studio. We know what to do. We know how to do it. We can do this. And when it came down to it, and I was getting kicked out, she decided to stay so that she could further.
So that was even more painful.
So that was I lost.
Yeah.
I lost my best friend, who was my dance partner, and my partner. We were really close, and it was very difficult because I lost all my students, I lost my dance partner, my teacher, everything that I had. I thought I was never going to dance again. Because they were so nasty as far as you better not teach, you better not do things, I'm not compete, we'll sue you. And I didn't know what to do, so I blocked everybody. I know people that care about me that I couldn't contact. I had to block everyone out. But almost a year later, it was too painful not to keep on teaching. So I had a regular job for over a year.
And it stunk, didn't it?
It was okay. I was just not really good at it, and I could not come back to dancing quick enough.
Used car salesman.
Brand new.
Oh, new cars.
New cars. I sold cars for Moritz. I didn't know jack about cars, but I learned a lot. Now I know a lot about payloads and gross vehicle ratings and all of those things for trucks. I had to learn a lot.
So was it soon after that you
I quit
connected with
I
Dianne.
quit on April Fools, the dealership. I went straight up to my
Did
manager.
did they relieve you?
And then he goes like, "Come on, man, really?" And I was like, "No, really, it's just a joke, right?" Like, "No, it's not a joke. Like, I'm out." I talked to my wife, and she's like, I'll support, I'll help you out. My wife's been amazing through this whole process because, she basically carried. At the time, I only had one kid, but she carried us in the household for a while until we were able to survive and make money. So I left no students. I left work and I had 0 students.
You got to start over.
Yeah. I mean, it was literally from scratch. The same day that I left the dealership, I went home. I wrote this nice letter and an email, and I sent it to like 200, 300 like wedding planners. Like, hey, this is my pedigree. This is what I do. Free lesson for you and your staff. Can you list me as your vendor? And, I would love to meet you. One replied.
Wow.
One replied. I'm sorry, 2 replied. 1 fell through, but the other one told me, "Look, I don't need it, but can you give it to one of my wedding couples?" I was like, "You know what? It's a lead. I'll take it." Like free intro class to this wedding couple. They signed up for like 10 lessons, and then her dad lives in East Texas by Mount Vernon and Mount Pleasant, like way up in 30, like East Texas. And they hired me to go teach the dad and the mom, and also the dad and the daughter dance. So I used to drive 5 hours. And I called Dianne on the way there and on the way back just to chat on the phone because I was so bored driving. I was like,
There's nothing
we were
to
just
see
like,
there.
Yeah, so like, but it worked out.
But you do anything to kind of get started,
Just
I know.
to get started
Yeah.
and just, get...
Foot in the door is what they call it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because at
So-
first it was just like, hey, let's get together. Maybe we could perform or something.
Yeah, which
It
we
wasn't
did
like a
really-
business thing at first. It was just like hey, as a woman in the industry, you want to make sure if someone you're dating with is a good guy. Like, I was looking for a good guy.
That's important.
Yeah, that I could, trust, that I knew his family, he knew my family. And
That showed up.
Yeah, this guy
that
can
showed
dance,
up.
but he's a total creep.
Right, that doesn't
work.
So, and then when I met him, and it's like one of the first things we did was we introduced our spouses to one another.
Which is really important.
Yeah, I
Very
was like, come
respectful.
over and meet my now ex-husband, and then meet his wife, and so it was like families. We all knew one another. And so now... and then it evolved into the business part of it once we had gotten it. But it really didn't take that long.
No.
Maybe like 2 or 3
Yeah,
months.
because I left in April. I met her, I think, about May.
Yeah.
Wow,
We signed the
that was
lease.
right away.
We
And then
signed the lease
the
in
following
January,
January.
so it was 6
Oh, wow.
months. Yeah.
So you have this great studio and surviving a storm.
yeah. It's just rain though. There's no tornadoes.
And now, announcement, you're going to have a dance competition.
Yes.
Yes.
August 2020.
August
August of
2020.
2020.
What is the
August
date?
1st.
August 1st.
Oh, that's
August
easy to remember.
Yes.
First in August 2020, we are launching our very own dance competition.
And what is it called?
The North Texas Dance Invitational.
Nice.
And it's
There
the
you go.
first
in Fort Worth?
First in Fort Worth ever.
Richard Newhouse, Fort Worth, Texas.
Not far to drive.
Yeah,
Do it.
It's at the Marriott Golf Club at Champion Circle, which is
nice.
yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Did I
That's what
shoot
told us
something
it
or
is
not?
on a golf club, so it feels like you're at a resort. It's up by the Motor Speedway.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it kind of feels like you're going out in the middle of nowhere, and then suddenly you turn
Staycation.
in.
It's a
and
nice
it's
hidden gem.
gorgeous.
It's huge.
Beautiful
and
trees and landscape
They're
lawns.
remodeling starting this summer all the way through next spring. So by next summer, we're going to get
Completely brand new
everything will be
hotel.
basically brand new.
Yeah,
So
and
we're
it's
Nice.
really nice. Like
Beautiful.
the back part of it is like a resort. The pool is really fancy. It's not like a regular pool. It looks like a resort pool.
yeah.
So
We have a lot
That is our next
of
great
golfing
adventure.
grounds. Yes.
I think
Very
that's
nice.
wonderful. Yeah, and I know the two of you have a really big heart for people and doing things the right way, and taking care of your students, making sure they're,
Well, I mean, one of the things that we focus a lot is building, community. One of the things I personally enjoyed while I was working for the Serve with Lisa is that she had people that have been there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 15, 17 years. Marco and Oliva Herring were with her for 17 years before she sold the studio. Like, to me, just having people that were with you for such a long, long amount of time,
Yes.
that just speaks to their character, that she cares about the people she gets with the students. So one of the main things that we had in common is that we wanted to take care of our students. We didn't want to feel pressure, to feel they're being sold, or feel like we treated as a number.
Right.
You know, like
you can't be a client; you got to be a friend. Otherwise,
I care about my students, each and every one of them.
Sure.
You know, all their stories, wherever they came from, what they're trying to accomplish, what they don't know they need. You know, some of the things that we do a lot of as a dance teacher, we don't understand what they need until they come here, and we help them discover that. So that was also our main goal, is to create a sense of family and community. And you know, one of our
that's important.
One of our more veteran students here, John Smith, you know, he tells every time somebody comes in, he tells us I'm sorry because, you know, his wife already taken a couple of group classes and lessons somewhere in Dallas before, and when they walk into our studio for a Friday night party, you know, they open the door and we always say, "Hi, how's it going? Hey, hello." Every time somebody walks in, we always greet them, and then we went and, you know, introduce ourselves and we dance with them, you know, and they said that was their home after that. Because there have been several places where they walk in and nobody pays attention to them. Nobody acknowledges the fact that they walked through the door. I mean, and to me that amazes me because it's just customer service 101.
Right. Yes.
I call it making adult play dates. So, like, when a new person walks in the door on a Friday night, a lot of times I know they're coming because they'll call ahead and they're all nervous. And I will take them and introduce them to people and be like, these are good people. These are the people, like, you sit right here with them. Like, you know, you probably have a lot in common with these people. Or you have nothing in common with this person, but they're nice. And I'll just, like, here, you sit. And I'll put their chair and make
adult
them.
Play date.
I do it. I call it that. I'll say
sandbox.
that. I'm your personal adult play date hostess for the evening, and I will help them make friends.
Well, that's the thing is that whenever we were starting out, you know, we're brand new. So we did that for our students, and they felt so comfortable and so well treated that whenever they became more accustomed to the studio, then they will see somebody, they will go and talk to them.
They will do that.
And then so, you know,
the culture.
They do.
Yeah,
that.
the staff still does
Sure.
it, but our students really just do it for us now because that's the way they're growing up here. You know,
They're like big sisters and brothers.
Yeah. John will be like, "Are you new? Is this your first night? I'm John."
Yeah.
And he'll just start talking to you.
Sure. Hey, listen, you raise your children a certain way when they get older. This is what they do. It's learned habit.
It's bringing the right culture in your studio. You know, a lot of students, unfortunately, tell me all the time, like, we're spoiled because they go to different dance events or the different different studios, and people don't talk to them. They don't say hello. They don't acknowledge. You know, we have people that come from different studios where it's Fort Worth, Dallas. They come here from everywhere, and I was like, "Hi, how's it going?" You know, and I try to dance with everybody as equally as possible in the party, not just with my students or my people. So we make sure that everybody gets treated equally and has a nice time because we're all one big dance family. We have extended family. They come from from outside the studio, but we try our hardest to make sure that everybody feels welcome and appreciated when they come through here. So avoiding cliques, avoiding little, you know. People will make friends who they feel, you know, the most comfortable with. But you know, one of the hardest challenges for us has been trying not to let people, you know, fight or conflict. You know, trying to make sure that everybody understands each other. They get along. We're family. You always like them, but you get along.
It's typical family. Hey, listen, you're gonna fight, man, but you know what? At the end of the day, you're still family.
And everybody loves each other.
Sure.
That's the.
I just don't like you today.
Yeah. Hey, we're talking about her. You know, I love my sister to death, and she knows it. She knows that I will do anything for her, but they're tight, so she wants to choke me, and I want to choke her. That's like,
it's called family.
She's like, if I could punch in the throat right now, I was like, so do I. But I will do anything and everything for that kid.
That's exactly right.
One of the things that I love the most is a lot of the students are friends in real life. They make friends here, and you'll see it especially over the holidays, and you'll see people posting photos on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and they're with like 15 other students at somebody's house. I mean, they just a few weeks ago they had like a hot tub party, and one of the ladies invited a bunch of other ladies. She was inviting like everyone to come over.
Beautiful.
Very
and
nice.
we've had a lot of birthday
We
parties.
didn't get that call.
I know.
I don't think they wanted you
It was a
Might have been
girls only thing. Well, we've had quite a few people. We've had like birthday parties and graduation parties, and you know, they'll invite everybody, and so suddenly it's like, you know, you're at a fancy party for someone's special event. We've hosted. Nice. We've had three people have babies, and we've had like baby showers for them, and then we just had 2 students get engaged the other day.
Yes.
And they did not meet here, but they came here as friends.
It was like the first or second day they they came in.
Very cool.
And now they're
Reception here
engaged.
now.
You know, I take that back. There's 2 other students that are engaged as well.
Yes.
Must be in the water.
Love is in the
love
air.
is in the air. And so, yeah, there's definitely friendships and relationships that have evolved over time. So
That's very cool.
It's
Very, very
great.
nice.
I like to think of it as like those old social clubs that you hear, like my grandparents used to talk about. I met your grandpa at a dance, and I'm like, a dance? Where, at a club? No, at a social, like the community center. Like everyone did that, and so that's what I like to think.
Didn't they call
of
them dance
as.
halls
It's
back then?
A modern day dance hall where people just come and hang out. And we have this one gentleman that comes in. He brings his laptop in, and he works on stuff for work here. And
He feels comfortable.
yeah, and he doesn't even have a lesson. He just uses our Wi-Fi. So, like, and people
Oh,
come,
he's one of those.
and, yeah, they come and they just hang out. They hang out here. It's
good energy.
Yeah, not just because they have a lesson. They just hang out.
Yeah, he likes to come here to, I mean, because it's like, I'm going to go sit at a Starbucks or sit somewhere else for like however long, and it's like, and I have to pack everything so I can use the restroom, and I don't know anybody, and sometimes I want to take a break, but then I can't hang out, just, you know,
Yeah.
so he likes to hear, just so he can work, he
Yeah.
can take a break when he needs to, he can talk to people, hang around, then go back, when the lessons start again, he'll just go back to his thing, do his work, take a break, he doesn't have to worry about his things being so late, you know, he just hangs
He's
out
comfortable here.
Yeah,
A
he's
lot
comfortable.
of people
Yeah.
come way early
Yeah.
before their lesson just to hang out.
That is nice.
Yeah.
All right, there we
So,
go.
it's not
A rec
maybe
center
right
now.
but it will be soon. There'll be a lot of people here.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
All right, well,
Hang out.
Well, I'm excited about EverDance Studio. And
Absolutely,
I'm
I'm, very excited
the name
about
of
your-
the competition again.
sure.
The North Texas Dance Invitational.com.
August
All right, we got
1st,
a .com.
2020.
Yes, so this first one is really
I'm excited.
It's going to be a lot of work. It's a little scary, but we are very, very thrilled to go through. This has been a dream of ours for a long, long time.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, it's
Something that we wanted to do from the beginning.
yeah.
Looking forward to seeing that thing come to fruition.
Thank you.
All right, senor, we're going to let you get out of here because I know you guys are busy, and there's a hole in the weather, so
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
I gotta
you
pack
can get
up.
home safely right now.
yeah, I must leave now. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Dianne, thank you for having us here at your lovely place. And I just want to make sure everybody understands it's been pouring out there. I see absolutely no water on the floor, so the roof is holding up. There we go.
There we-
is-
somebody-
We
there
got a new roof, like
We got our
sure
new,
does.
there you go. See, I can tell there was something different about it. Miss the lovely May.
Jose, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Dianne,
Thank you,
Loui,
guys.
for having us in your dance home and making us feel welcome here.
Thank you for
All right, folks. Well, this has been another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. Thank you for watching.